RStudio Cloud is probably the best way to get started using R. One reason is it provides a super easy way to get R and RStudio running out of the box. It'll run in a web browser with no setup. Also, it has a number of built-in primers which will get you started using R. There are currently 6 primers that are available. The first 3 are really good for getting started. The second 3 are more advanced. They relate more to people who are doing data science and working with largish data sets or needing to learn how to do programming like writing for loops or writing functions. So it'd be good to start off with the basics and work with data. So in this video, I just want to show you basically how these RStudio primers and the guided tutorials in them work. So I'll start off by clicking on the basics. One thing to know about RStudio Cloud is that the company RStudio is a primary backer of the what's called the tidyverse world of packages. It's an interconnected constellation of packages that use a particular paradigm for writing code, building packages, creating programming environments for people to work with. The tidyverse contains ggplot2 and dplyr, which are 2 of the most powerful packages and popular packages that have ever been created in R. And they're so popular that they're often copied so that they can be used in Python. ggplot2 is super powerful. It's my primary way of building plots, but it's very specific and is different than other ways of building plots in R. And so it's really good to use RStudio and RStudio's ways of doing things through these primers. However, you will need to know how to use other ways of working through. So I'm going to start off with this programming basics unit and see what it's got in it. And I want to show you some of the features of these tutorials. There's a few things you need to remember while using them so that you don't get stuck. Take a minute to load. In this unit, it's called programming basics, but you're really not going to be doing actual programming in it. It's more just general principles of how R works. Things like functions and arguments, objects, how does R handle data, that sort of thing. So let's move in. Embedded within RStudio Cloud primers, there are these super useful short videos. So I recommend pausing this video and watching this functions video if you haven't before. Now let me click continue. The primer is prompting me to use the square root function. And so I've got a little box here, and this functions mostly like R does, mostly like the R and RStudio console does, but it is a little different. So what it wants me to do is type sqrt, the square root function, and then 962. Now I'm very useful after I type a command in R hitting enter. However, that actually doesn't do anything. And if I keep hitting enter, all I'm doing is actually adding lines to this little box. And I can even click it so much that I'm going to get a scroll bar on the side. So I'm going to go back up here. And what I need to do is click on run code. And that's going to actually run the code. Now, depending on my Wi-Fi connection and the RStudio servers, it'll take a second to get the answer. But down here, printed like it would be in the RStudio console, is the answer. When using RStudio, shortcuts are big. It can take a little while to get used to them, but I can also use a shortcut here. On my Mac here, it is Command Return. If you're on a PC, it would be something else. Note that while I'm in this screen here, I can actually do anything I want. Even though RStudio, the primer, is giving me a certain prompt here, if I just want to do the square root of 9, I can do that. So I'll type that in, highlight it, hit Command Return. Now I'm seeing that my response is 3, as you'd expect. So now I'm going to click on Continue. Now they're asking me just to type in the square root command. So what I can do is I can type in square root and then hit Again, I'm used to hitting enter, but if I run this code, what it's doing is it's showing me what the underlying R function is. And if you watch the video or dig deeper, you can understand what's going on there. These RStudio primers, they work a lot like a regular R session would, though with some variation. For example, if I type $SQRT, that will actually pull up the help file. It's formatted a little oddly, but here is the help file for that. Let me see if I can come up with something that should break R. This is code that really doesn't mean anything. And I get an error here. It's saying this doesn't make any sense. All I have to do is correct it and give it something that does make sense. Now 1 + 1 is equaling 2. Again, I don't have to do what the prompt is. If anything seems goofy, I can click the start over button. It should clear everything out. There's also a solution button that it's going to show me what it's expecting you to type. So if it's not clear or you're hitting an error, you can just go up here, copy the solution, and paste it down there, and then click Run Code. And then if I was interested in the rest of this primer, I could continue on through. And again, I encourage you to explore these primers and use them. There's a useful table of contents here, and you can go back and forth through